Hello everyone, my name is Jessica and welcome to my channel. I'm a stay-at-home mom comedy / commentary channel. Today's video is a doozy. You won't believe what Kevin's lawyer is saying, who he thinks is a victim, many people, just spoiler, and the real reason why they are thinking about closing proceedings to the public. And it's not what we've been told as in, their kids' lives have been public for so long and then now they deserve to be private. That's not the reason why, and it will shock you. It shocked me, man. So let's get into it. So first up, we have Law and Crimes interview with Kevin's lawyer.
Kester maintains Kevin Franke had no idea his children were in trouble.
And some critics are saying, how could you not know? How could you spend this much time without speaking to your kids? What does he have to say about that?
He was following the advice of who he thought was a professional mental health expert, telling him to stay away.
Okay, this is exactly what I talked about in my video where I said, is Kevin a victim? Because I said he probably stayed away because she told him to stay away and he listened. This is like all the other stories of the men who came out who stayed away from their families because Jodi made them.
The only way to save his family was to stay apart from his family at that point. While he thought they were working toward reconciliation, he had no idea that there was this kind of abuse going on. She was telling him that everything was blissful and everything was wonderful.
So to give context, he is not referring to any of the parenting choices that both Ruby and Kevin made for their YouTube channel on what they displayed and showed everybody that all the videos going around. He is simply talking about the ABUSE that happened to the children and saying that Kevin had no idea about that was going on.
That in conjunction with the fact she didn't tell him that she'd taken the kids to Southern Utah to be in Jodi's home. He would have resisted that, but she didn't tell him. He was being advised by his mental health care professional to stay away from the family and not contact the kids.
This right here is foreshadowing who is his mental health specialist that told him to stay away. I wonder who that could be.
Kester does say before his wife's arrest, Kevin Franke received counseling from Hildebrand.
And there we have it, the confirmation that she was his therapist. How messed up is this? So all these stories that are coming out of these men, realize that Kevin is one of them. And by the way, two things can coexist at the same time. Kevin can also not be the best parent and take away Christmas and do things that everyone is deeming evil like that. And he, at the same time, he can also be a victim that was forced to stay away from his family. I know a lot of people are not understanding this, but you're not in that world. And from what I've learned, it seems like it happens a lot.
During the separation, Kevin was attending men's groups that were facilitated by Jodi.
And this next part is a guy who is sharing his story on TikTok and on YouTube. I'll link his stuff below, but sharing about the men's groups, which is why I'm just inserting this part here since Kevin's lawyer mentioned that.
First session at the bottom, she has both of you guys together, both the husband and the wife. And then she breaks you off into the wife has an individual session and the husband has an individual session. And then you end up going to the men's group for the husband and the women's group for the wife. And up there.
And during those groups, he was being downgraded and diminished and told how bad he was and that he needed to repent, and that the best way to repent was to not infect his family with his problems, and so that's why you need to stay away.
This is similar to what happened with Adam and then another guy who shared a story from another guy in a men's group with KUTV.
There's former client Trey Warner. Hildebrand would use shaming tactics to turn husbands and wives against each other, adding that she would convince men that their impure thoughts made them dangerous to their families. He says he saw one case during a group session.
There was a man that had successful business that believed that he was a danger to his wife and his family because he did a double take. Like if he saw a beautiful woman, he would say, look again. This guy got his own apartment and separated from his family because he was a danger.
Can you guys imagine how many other men out there has to be like dozens, hundreds of other men who have also experienced this same type of treatment from Jodi, and how many families she's broken up? Why? Because she's a sinister old lady who had a failed marriage that was only a year long? Like, insane.
He wasn't the only one in those men's groups that was undergoing exactly what he was undergoing at her suggestion and recommendation.
Okay, now we hop back into Adam's story. I say back into because I had another video that I shared it, but to share another part of his story on which he shares about what his groups were like, which really corroborates all the other stories.
What were your groups like? And then what do you know about what her groups were like?
So my group, I get in there with these guys. There's 4 guys in there. I'm one of them. When she's having us talk about how they're sexually acting out, this other guy in the group starts explaining that he's a voyeurist and he's got victims. And I didn't know what a voyeurist was. And then this other guy started explaining how he was an exhibitionist and he had victims. And I didn't know what an exhibitionist was. And there was another guy that talked about incest, that he had problems with incest. I didn't know what that was. I felt horrified. And then I realized I was in a group with 3 sexual predators. And me. And because I was a victim of sexual abuse, I did not feel comfortable.
This shows how distorted, do you see I'm using that word distortion because Jodi loves that word, how distorted her thinking is that she can relate someone who self-pleasures themselves to someone who is in incest and other sick shit.
Just so I get a better idea of what these men groups are, would that be, what would that entail? They're going to a group and kind of talking about things? Who are the people who are kind of laying down the law, so to speak?
Jodi. And they were Zoom meetings.
I don't know what it is, call it intuition, but I feel like they weren't Zoom meetings. I feel like he went in person, but who knows? I could be wrong, but maybe he's just trying to cover it by saying they were Zoom meetings because otherwise there'd be questions of where are the meetings held. And my suspicion, I'll share in a little bit.
Is taking under advisement a motion to seal the proceedings and to restrict certain people from the courtroom and probably a pretty broad swath of people just to protect the privacy and confidentiality of the things that we're discussing involving the children, because they have a right to have their privacy needs met.
So the reason why he's sharing this is because he goes on to say that they're thinking about closing the court proceedings, which we've already heard before, which means Sherry couldn't be there, but they're thinking about closing it because a reporter apparently snuck into the court proceedings, and that's who heard that RF touched other children, which in my opinion isn't true, but she heard this and then reported it and leaked this information. Like, I understand that people have to do the reporting, but there is time and tact and just using common decency to not leak out information like that. Yes, it's Ruby saying something so boisterous, but why would you put that out there for a little kid who just endured so much torture and malnutrition? So this is why, and you know what, I'm kind of for it if they want to seal the proceedings, because I don't want reporters talking about this crap. It's not right for the children at all.
These kids have been horribly brainwashed, indoctrinated, and it's scary.
So amongst many things, the evidence of them being brainwashed is when RF had said to the 911 caller that he deserves this treatment that he received, which obviously he doesn't, poor kid, but yes, that's the evidence of him being brainwashed.
Brainwashed by who?
Jodi.
Do you believe that Ruby was brainwashed by Jodi?
Yes.
So this has made me think that maybe they're going to use the angle of that they were all brainwashed by Jodi and then try to throw Jodi under the bus here so that she actually serves time and that maybe Ruby and Kevin get back together. I don't know. I'm just speculating as I'm watching this. So who knows?
What kind of mental health care provider would advise a family and a husband and wife and a husband and children, or a father and children, that this can repair your family if you just stay away from each other?
You know who would advise this is someone who gave up custody of her children when they were 9 and 10 years old, and someone who had a marriage that only lasted a year. That's someone who has zero experience in a successful marriage and zero experience in raising children beyond the ages of 9 and 10.
Do you believe that Kevin was brainwashed as well?
I do, but he was desperate to save his family and save his marriage.
For me, this interview was amazing, so I will link it in the description box below. Law and Crime did such a great job. I really think that they're going to push the angle, getting Jodi under the bus, but like I've shared many times before, Jodi is super well connected. Not just like your basic connected. She is connected in every single way possible that you can ever imagine.
And it's complicated because I'm grateful, in a weird way, I'm grateful that she partnered with someone that has so much fame, because I don't think there was no way it would be getting the coverage that it's getting if she hadn't. But Jodi is the mastermind here, not Ruby. Ruby is still responsible and like should be arrested for harming her children for sure. And I'm sure Jodi like used what was already there, which is what she does. She uses what's already there to her advantage. Jodi is the one doing this. This is Jodi's therapeutic ideas. These are Jodi's ideas that she has been doing for over 14 years. This is not new. This is a pattern.
I've decided to share this part of Jessie's story and her opinion of everything because she is a victim of Jodi's, and Jodi's abuse to her, and it's important to share her perspective on the 8 passengers case in particular because she is also a victim of Jodi's. So I have shared the comparison that Kevin is a victim of Jodi's, but not in the same way. So like I said earlier, 2 things can coexist at the same time. Jodi can be a abuser to children physically, but she can also be a master manipulator and abuser to men in another way where she can't physically harm them because they could probably obviously overpower her. There's no way she could possibly do this, but she is able to manipulate and control people and get them away from their families so that she could have the women under her control and their children inadvertently. So this is obviously deep and sinister. So I really wanted to share a perspective from somebody who actually experienced her abuse so that you know it's not just things I'm pulling out of my butt here and trying to make a connection where there isn't one. Just wanted you guys to see that.
When she would lock me in she worked in Lehigh in like the, what's that area called in Lehigh with the golf course?
Thanksgiving Point?
She worked in Thanksgiving Point.
We drove to this place. I think it was in Lehigh, Utah, off of State Street or something.
I have been spending hours trying to find this office that they talk about, and as you can tell from their 2 stories and then showing you the map, their recollection of where her office was is very similar, but you won't believe there are so many freaking therapy counseling offices in this area. Even putting together where Jodi's businesses are, it's too far for Jessie to have walked, in my opinion, just based on her recollection of events. And I'm just going to keep doing more digging, and if I end up finding it, I'll share in another video with you guys. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that just 2 random people, their accounts of it shows you that her office was over here, and also that their stories are more than likely real and correct, and I definitely believe them. So I have had my personal suspicions that Jodi does therapy out of her home in Tagu in Ivins, and This story by Jessie of her recollection of getting locked in a closet while Jodi had her therapy sessions confirms, in my opinion, it confirms my point of that she locked the kids away, because when the connections, the Moms of Truth YouTube channel with Ruby and Jodi, they were obviously in her basement, and the kids were obviously, in my opinion, locked away because you can't see them. There's no noise. There's no like mention of them at all. So I think she locked the kids away. People didn't know she was locked in the safe, and she had her therapy sessions there because there's no real registered businesses for her anymore once she built her house in Ivans. So I think she had like a huge plan for her house in Ivans, and it wasn't that she was running away from some stalker. She had massive plans because of her history of owning like a ton of business locations, like so many business locations for her. And eventually she just built this multi-million-dollar property that she could do everything she wanted there, and she would have to answer to nobody. There'd be no suspicion, right? Which is also why I believe that Kevin's lawyer said that he participated in Zoom meetings with Jodi, because then there'd be suspicion on if Kevin was at that house, which I believe he was. And so now I'm kind of changing my thought on if Kevin knew about anything, unless they lied and said, oh, the kids are at someone's house, but really they were locked in the safe during these therapy sessions. But I want to show you this story here with Jessie really quick, sharing this little thing so I can show you the proof of that. And then remember that the kids were in the safe.
There was a little side office closet kind of room. It was like a little bit bigger than a closet, but it didn't have any windows. It had like a table, a chair, an actual closet, and that's about it. So that's where when I was pulled out of school and I started living with her full time because she worked, I went with her to work, and that's where I stayed.
So for me, watching this interview really confirmed my thoughts on that. Her house was where she did her therapy at, and then she just locked the kids away. So take what you want, but that's just what I believe. Now, the final most telling thing here I want to share is about the fact that now from multiple sources it's been mentioned that there were 3 children total living at Jodi's house. I don't know where the 4th child was, but 3 children under the age of 18, that means living at the house. And I'll show you with the confirmation of the next 2 things. So one being the 911 call and one being the dispatch. And then the final thing is the article.
He's also saying that there's 2 of his sisters are back at the home as well.
If any other children were in the home he came from?
Okay. Was there any other kids up at Jodi's house? 10 and 14, and they're still at this house.
So this is from the article that came out with the search warrant information. So there's lots of information online about this already, but it says here, officers found that the victim's mother, Ruby Franke, had left her 3 children in the care of Jodi Hildebrandt. So, as we can see here, this was our confirmation in the search warrant from the police. So not just hearsay or just a source said this. No, it was actually said in the search warrant document that there were 3 children at the house. And as Russell said, 2 of his sisters were at the house. So that is all I have for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and commenting and liking if you did. It's been a couple days since I posted, and I'm posting late today. If I get this up today, I'm not sure if I'm going to get it today or tomorrow, but I just have valued my sleep a little bit more, because in order to do videos, I've been staying up crazy late and not sleeping well. So anyways, that doesn't matter. I hope wherever you are, whether it's morning or night, you're having a great day. Bye guys.